there, this is May's Look for Less Challenge. Now if you're not familiar with the Look for Less Challenge, it is a challenge hosted every single month by Yami, the Latina next door, and every single month she has a different co-host. So for this month, the month of May, the co-host is me. I am really super excited about this. I of course will have the link down below to Yami's Look for Less video, so after you've watched this video, go and make sure you check out her video for the ideas that she came up with. Now the premise of this challenge is simple. You take a high-end decor piece that you have been admiring, maybe it's a little bit out of your price range, and you try and recreate it for less. Now a few weeks ago, I extended an open invitation for anyone here on YouTube or Instagram that wanted to join this challenge. If you're a YouTuber, I will have the playlist down below in the description box where you can go and upload your video. If you're on Instagram, make sure that you tag myself and Yami and show us what you came up with. I am excited to see all the inspiring ideas that everybody has come up with for this Look for Less challenge. And I'm really super duper triple excited to show you what I came up with. But first, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Linda. I post all sorts of DIY and craft related videos, so you might want to go ahead and hit that red subscribe button and notification bell for future updates on my channel. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. So for this first project, I decided to do this Neiman Marcus vase. The price is $5,500. I think I can do it for a little bit less. So I'm going to be using this vase from Dollar Tree. Instead of diamond trim, I'm going to go ahead with this adhesive pearl wrap. And of course, first things first, we're going to take the sticker off the bottom. And then I'm going to be spray painting this jar, of course, and I don't want to get spray paint on the inside. So I'm using this really wide packing tape and lining the top edge inside of the jar so that any overspray from the spray paint will keep the inside protected. And now I'm going to be making a little gold thin top like on the Neiman Marcus vase. So I'm using this washi tape to tape off the top edge. It's about a 1/2 inch wide washi tape, not very sticky, so washi tapes works really good for this. And then I'm just kind of taping off the top lip of the vase as well. I'm going to be using Ultra Matte Spray Paint Rust-Oleum to spray paint the bottom edge, and then the top edge will be this gold paint. So I do 2 coats of the Ultra Matte Wise spray paint at the bottom, doing nice thin coats so that it doesn't drip. And then I'm going to peel the washi tape off once that's all dry. Look at that nice line, awesome. And I'm going to replace the washi tape at the very top edge of the painted area of the white part of the vase. I also added some paper towel at the bottom and taped that on as well so that the gold overspray wouldn't touch that. So here it is. I'm going to take the paper towel off, and then of course the top edge of the tape there, that wide packer's tape, and pulling off the washi tape. And look at the line between the white and the gold. If there was an award for Guinness Book of World Records, because I'll never do this again, get that line so crisp and clear. Can I have a moment of silence, please? Okay, done with all the silliness, but really it's the best I've ever done, and I'll probably never do that again. So I don't have the diamond trim. Now I could, if I was able to get to a craft store, got diamond trim, but I'm using what I have on hand, which is this pearl trim from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use 1 full sheet and then about a 1/4 of a sheet of another one to fit here, like you're seeing right here. Also, I'm going to cut off the top and bottom edges of those little threads that's overhanging on the pearl trim. So I know this project is a little bit off. It's not the diamond trim like the first one, but it still looks pretty nonetheless. Now, as I'm starting to put this on, I'm realizing I don't like the sticky on there, how it shows through, so it's easy to peel off. You can see there on the difference, it's very easy to peel off, and that way, because that sticky that was on there was so shiny, it was kind of making the vase look a little cheaper than I wanted it to. And so by peeling that sticky off, that sticky was so sticky that the pearls still had enough stick on it after even peeling off that adhesive. So I'm just getting this on here, replacing the strip on there, and just in case I'm going to use a little bit of Fabri-Tac just on the very end. See, I kind of just peel up the ends just where all the pieces come together, not the whole thing, just kind of top and bottom, the very ends of the two main pieces of this pearl trim, just so it's stuck very nicely. And in the end, here's what it looks like. Now you'll notice here is the final look. I did take it back out and spray paint that pearl trim with the same white paint that I started originally with on the vase, and I think it just looks beautiful. I know different from the first one, but still beautiful nonetheless. So here comes our score. The first one from Neiman Marcus, $5,500. My price, $4, because I already had the paint on hand. So project number 2, I love the Farmhouse of these decorative milk bottles from Birch Lane, $92 price on this on sale. So these 2 jars and the cork I got from my cousin, and the other 2 jars I bought from I believe Michael's a couple of years ago. They were $1 a piece, and I'll also be using this decorative piece from Dollar Tree and these 2 long paint sticks. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to paint the jars again with this Rust-Oleum Ultra Matte White spray paint, and as that's drying, I'm removing the cover from this decorative piece. We're going to use the wood frame part of it. And then I'm going to cut 2 of these paint sticks. I'm simply marking them now. I'm going to cut 2 of them to the length of this decorative piece. It's going to be the bottom of our piece, because I want this to look like a crate when we're all done, a little wooden crate. So I'm going to sand off the rough edges after I use my miter saw to kind of cut those down to length. Want them all nice and smooth. And then I'm marking where they're going to fit on the bottom of our little crate. I'm going to use wood bond glue here, kind of using a Q-tip to get that on because it's such a small area, but just to hold it a little bit, because I am going to end up using my staple gun. And I'm going to put a couple staples in each end on each paint stick here to hold it in place. And then I further want to give this a little bit more decorative to make it look like a wood crate. I've got these tiny nails, and I'm adding them on each end and in the middle, both sides of our little crate, to give it that more, decorative look. So I've got my milk bottles all painted here. I've got a little washi tape I put on the bottom, measured how far up I wanted to place my letters on the milk bottle. So those washi tape there is just for a line for me, so I know where the bottom of my letters are going to go, so they're seen in the box. For my vinyl, I'm using Arteza matte black paint, or matte black vinyl, and this vinyl transfer tape also from Arteza. I love these products. I'll have the links down below for you. And I simply print it out in just a plain font, milk, of course, because that's what's on the original. I printed 2 just in case I messed one up. And I'll get them all weeded out here. I use my Cricut Explore Air machine to do these. If you didn't have a machine, you could totally use like a paint marker or something like that, or stickers from Dollar Tree, of course, or stencils. Anything like that would work. And getting my transfer tape all cut and ready. This transfer tape's like a thin, like vinyl type transfer tape. I love it. It is awesome, and I love the grid lines on it. Comes with the little tool I'm using here. Just kind of wanted to share that with you, those that might have cutting machines or in the market for good transfer tape. And I love their vinyl. They have matte black and matte white for their matte shades, and I love the matte for doing kind of this country farmhouse type projects like this milk crate here. So I'm cutting them separately, getting them ready. And I'm going to start, see, I'm placing the bottom of my letter at the top of the washi tape there. And I'm going to do that on every single jar, of course, till we end up with the word milk visible and lovely. Coming on with the L here, just want you to see the entire process. Again, letter stickers, stencils, paint markers. You could draw it by pencil and paint it in with regular brush and paint as well. Any of those would look great because it would give it a nice farmhouse appeal to it. And these are pretty easy to, the letters are very easy to put on these surfaces here. I could have done, I have enough bottles. I have 4 of the short ones, 4 of the long ones. I could have done all the same, but the picture showed too long, too short. So that's why I'm doing it the same here. I want it to look as close to the picture as possible. So they're done. I'm going to peel off my washi tape guidelines here. Putting in my cork. I believe off camera too, I spray my cork just a little bit with spray paint. You don't see that. But I also want to kind of rustic out my jars a little bit. So I'm just using a little bit of sandpaper in different areas along the jars, the top ridges, anything that kind of has embossed look to it, a little bit of areas on the jars as well. They showed kind of the top edge on the picture, like making it look like enamel, and I could have went in with a black Sharpie, you know, on the top and darkened it like that, but I chose to just kind of go my own route here a little bit. And I would suggest once these are done, maybe spraying them with like a matte clear enamel, so to protect those. This is Gravel Road chalk paint from Jamie Ray Vintage. Love the chalk paint, so I will have that link down below for you. You can check out the other chalk paints. Water-based chalk paint, awesome for wet distressing. Love, love, love this paint, can't say it enough. Once it's all painted, I do 2 coats. I'm going to go in with the sandpaper and distress it. And here is the final result. And you can kind of see on the cork, all I did was take it out outside and just do a little bit of just like hitting it with spray paint just to kind of distress it a little bit. Very subtle, but it is there. Love how this turned out. One of my favorites. So the original was $92 and I was able to do it for $3 because I had some of the bottles and the spray paint, of course, on hand. So number 3 project, Neiman Marcus, is this bowl. I loved it because of the kind of the taco bowl shape on top. I actually happen to have some in my supply, so I got that and one of those vases I already had on hand, or the candle holders from Dollar Tree, and 2 of these over-the-door metal door hangers from Dollar Tree as well. So really all I went out and bought for this project was these over the door hangers and then some spray paint because I did not have the spray paint. So you can see how I'm kind of bending these the opposite way. I use the very end pieces because the end pieces already have kind of the curl on it here. You can see where it's curled over. So all I have to do is bend one piece in the opposite direction, kind of make it look like an S. So that made it very easy for me. Don't care if I mess up the covering on it because I'm going to pull all of that off anyway for spray painting. And I'm just curling it back as you see here so that it fits on the underside of the taco bowl and then has that curvature outward as like on the original piece. So here I'm using my craft knife. Want to scrape off all the plastic coating here. Because as I said, we're going to spray paint it. Pretty easy to get off with the craft knife, but if you do this, please, please, please be careful. All I could picture was myself cutting my finger or something. So here they are all ready with the plastic taken off. I'm going to use E6000 and a little bit of, I think, Fabri-Tac glue, if I remember correctly, to get these little prongs, I'm going to call them. Oh, hot glue on this one. Prongs on the bottom of the taco bowl. I had 2 of these taco bowls like I mentioned earlier, and I bought them probably 5 years ago at a garage sale for like 50 cents, never used them. So I'm placing them on, you know, opposite corners on the bottom of the bowl, and the hot glues, of course, help the E6000 set up, and I won't paint these until the next day. I like the E6000. It takes 24 hours to fully cure, so that's what we're dealing with. It's not an immediate hold, but once it cures, it does work good. But I don't often use E6000 because it does take a long time for that cure rate. So once these are all on, I'll be using this Rust-Oleum bronze paint, and this I did have to buy. I'm going to paint the bottom, the top, and then of course the candle holder. So I could have done like the original. I have a base and a ball with the taco bowl, but my taco bowl was not the right proportion to go with the ball and the base as shown in the picture. So that's why I chose to use the taco bowl and the candle holder that I already had on hand. As you saw, it was painted white already, and I repainted it using a little E6000 and my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue, and here is the final result. I think it's still just as pretty as the other one. If I had a bigger bowl and more flanged, I would have went with the ball and the base, so I chose to change it up a little bit. So the original price was $695. My price was $7.25, again because I had to buy the paint and some couple things at Dollar Tree. So here is number 4, Neiman Marcus. It's kind of like this butterfly vase. I like it. Had a little trouble with it, but I'm making it work. So from Dollar Tree, I bought this metal butterfly and that glass vase, and I'm using the top portion of the butterfly to be a base and a template for creating the clay butterfly on the front. And I just simply pushed the prongs up into position and made them look like antenna. And I'm using this model air dry clay I already had on hand, and I'm flattening it out, rolling it out a little bit. I should have probably made this thicker. There's a lot of things I probably would have done differently looking back on it, but in the end I still think it looks kind of cute. So I'm rolling it out to be about the size of the front of this butterfly. And of course, if you didn't want to buy the butterfly, you could totally freehand it, but I did it this way because the butterfly was metal and I could kind of bend it up a little bit so it looked like it was kind of flying and not just be flat on the front of our vase. So I get the clay, you know, press it into this metal butterfly, and then I'm just going around and, you know, taking off all the excess, and I bring this butterfly right up to the edge. And I'll show you later the little bit of problem with that, because this air dry clay, as it dries, I had previously purchased it at Walmart. As it dries, it does shrink. So I get a little bit of an issue with it, but I end up being able to fix it. And I think it shrunk the way it did, and what happened, I'll show you in a minute, is because I did bend this butterfly up a little bit. I bent the metal up as well. So I'm just kind of, you know, getting the antenna a little bit thicker. And again, I probably would have built this butterfly out thicker, but I make it work. So I'm kind of spraying it down with water and smoothing it out with my fingers so it looks all nice and pretty. And you have a lot of time to work with this air dry clay if you've never worked with it before. I'm able to just smooth around all the edges so I get the definition and shape of the metal portion of the butterfly. But again, I probably would have went thicker with it just so it kind of more matched the picture. But first time doing this, and this was my thought of how to do it, so that's what we're going with. And here's where I'm bending it up, and here's where I think why I had a little bit of an issue. It'll pop up here in just a minute. As it dried, you can see it cracked. And as it dries, it shrunk away from the edge of the metal of the butterfly. But that part doesn't concern me as much because when I go to spray paint it, it just kind of gives a 3D look. But I'm able to prepare the cracks. As you see here, what I'm doing is I'm spraying it with water, and then I've got some clay and some palette knife, and I'm simply kind of repairing the cracks with really wet clay. I kind of wet the clay, I sprayed the butterfly so that it's real moist, and I can go in and kind of repair all the cracks. And it works. As it dries, I think I had to do it twice because once it dried again, I kind of dried it with my heat tool so I could see if it would crack again, and it did, and I had to do the same process again. But after that, it looked fine. But it's because I bent it up, and as it shrunk, you know, it just cracked, but able to repair it. So, and I didn't want to give up on this project. It was bugging me like all get out, but I did not want to give up on it. So this is how I fix it. Again, wet. So if you try this, you know, wetting it, super wet clay, palette knife, bringing it in, kind of repairing the cracks. It'll all look okay in the end. But it's quite a bit of a process, but I just wanted to share it with you. Real easy, a little messy, but in the end, this is how it turned out. See, it turned out fine. And you can see a few of the little bit of areas where it was repaired, but that's okay. Now, since it's on the back and it shrunk, it kind of pulled off of the metal a little bit, and so I want to protect that. I don't want the butterfly to come off. So what I'm going to do here is flip it over, and I'm going to use my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue, and I'm going to glue the entire backside and all the little areas that are cut out on the metal so that that butterfly won't try and just like fall off of it. I'm sorry I'm off camera here just a little bit. And I let it dry overnight, and it fills it all in, and I'm not worried about it because I will spray paint it. But this was kind of my solution, you know, to keep that butterfly on there. And then I wanted it a little more 3D like the original butterfly, so I made a little body, and I let that dry as well. We're going to move on to the vase. You could use like a tube here that's like really thick. I got that off my vinyl, but I actually had this empty hydrogen peroxide bottle because you need something flat for the bottom part of the vase for the butterfly to adhere to. So again, bringing out the clay, making a little ball, and I'm just going to make a little base. I put down some saran wrap first so that I'm able to get this back off once it dries, and I'm just making like a little square piece here, about a ½ an inch thick, and I'm going to press my butterfly into it so that the clay gets all the little bumps and stuff from the back of the butterfly. And then I pull that off, and I let it, after it's dried, I pull it off, and then the butterfly will kind of stick right back onto it because this piece here, I'm molding it right around the butterfly. So now we're going to take the top of the bottle off, and I've taped it there, and I'm going to use my heat tool and my craft knife. Careful if you do this, but heating it up so that when I go in to cut it, it'll just kind of melt that plastic, and I can take the top right off very easily. And I just go in little spurts as I get this off, but it works really well. I started to try and cut it normally, but I was having a little bit of a hard time, so I thought, well, if I heat up my craft knife, it would kind of melt it and I can cut right through it, and it worked a lot easier. Able to just pull it off, and there we go. And of course, got to get the tape off, the labels off. I'm going to clean up the edge a little bit. A lot of sticky left on from the labels, of course. I want to make sure I get that off. 89 cents for my bottle. If I had to buy it, if you have to buy something like this, I'm going to use my Goo Gone to get all that stuff off, and I'm going to end up taking all these again with the Rust-Oleum oil rubbed bronze and spray painting it. We're going to go back to this a little bit. Before I spray paint my little piece here that's going to attach my butterfly, I've just kind of sanded it up a little bit so it's nice and smooth. So I've spray painted everything, and I want to kind of make it look aged, so I'm going in with this country gray apple barrel paint, just kind of painting it and rubbing it in, and then once I get my look, I take it back outside and spray paint it again because I think it looks a little tacky like that. So spray painting it kind of makes it look a little better. And as you saw, I had glued the body of my butterfly on. So the vase here didn't quite fit on the top of my hydrogen peroxide bottle. So I heated very gently the soft edge, or the top edge, just so it was tiny soft. You don't want it melting, but just barely warm, and then I pushed it onto the bottom of my vase so that the ends would kind of flare out, and then it would fit that bottom flared edge of the vase. And then of course I'm using a little bit of E6000 and my Fabri-Tac to get this on, and that worked really well, just kind of heating the top edge, pushing it onto the vase and holding it till it cooled, and then it flared out and fit the bottom perfectly. So I'm going to attach my little brace here onto, once the top's dry, I have to do this in stages. Once that was set, then I'm attaching my base, a little bit of E6000 again and the Fabri-Tac, and then attaching my butterfly. And then once all that's dried, because E6000 takes 24 hours to cure, it'll slide off if you don't do this in stages, I then adhere it to the bottom of the base. Here's what it looks like in the end, a little different from the original, which cost $175. I was able to do mine for $7. I did go ahead and include the cost of the spray paint again on this one as if I had to buy it just for this project alone. In the end, though, I think all the projects were successful dupes. I'm curious to know which was your favorite. Please let me know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this month's Look for Less challenge, and don't forget to check out the playlist. Thank you, Yami, for having me as a co-host this month. Everyone, thanks for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.